the stand. Now he runs. He produces a magic print. He pulls out another one. This is incredible. This is ridiculous. This is 15 out of 10 on the incredible meter. What a player. What an entertainer. Give him the medal. Give him the Dally M medal.
Hello, footy fans, and welcome back to the Chip and Chase podcast. Going to be going through and previewing the Saturday games on this one. A super Saturday, but there are only two games this week. Of course, we've moved one of these Saturday games. We have the Monday game for Easter Monday. So there's only two games for our super Saturday this week, but we're just going to be going through previewing these ones. I will admit this podcast is currently being recorded on the Friday. I work all of the Saturday, so I don't really have much time to get those out. Got a really big shift there. So if there are any late changes to the teams, I won't have them covered. This one is coming a little bit earlier to you guys. It will be released, on the Saturday, but recorded this one on the Friday at 2:00. So sorry if there are any late news. Obviously, work with what you got from there. It might change a few things, but we're just going to work with what we got, work with what we know at the moment. So we're going to start with the Dragons taking on the Manly Seagulls. This one coming to you 5:30 p.m. at Wynn Stadium in Wollongong. So Dragons home game. They're currently sitting in 15th following a win record of 1 win and 2 losses to start this season. And while they've got a home game here, they come up against the Seagulls, who are currently in 5th. They were undefeated before last week, where they suffered their first loss of the season to who'd they verse last week? Roosters, was it? I believe it was the Roosters. I want to say, no, Eels, of course. So Manly currently in 5th after suffering their first loss of the season last week against the Eels. So just based on that alone, well, not based on that alone, but you can probably see where my tip is going to go. I will be tipping, I have tipped in my tipping comps, the Manly Seagulls to take the win in this one. They've got too much attack across the park. Dragons, they impressed me in their trials. I've said it already, and they impressed me in round 1. Since then, they haven't had too many good performances. I thought last week they showed glimpses of what they can do, but their defence was really not up to scratch. And this Manly side, we know they can tear you to pieces if they get a roll on. So if the Dragons are going to throw at the Seagulls what they threw at the Cowboys last week, it could be a bloodbath for them. So I'm pretty confident in my tip of the Seagulls. I would love nothing more for the Dragons to get up for this game and get a win. I always want a close competition. I want every game to be close. I want every game to be competitive. But just based on what we know, I'm tipping the Seagulls in this one. How I see it playing out, it's pretty easy. They're just going to throw the ball around as they have so far this season. They're not afraid to attack out of their own end, and I expect them to do the exact same here. They'll be studying what the Cowboys did to the Dragons last year. Cowboys, very similar vein to the Seagulls. They also they don't really play through the middle too much. They'll do 1 or 2 through the middle, and then they don't mind shifting out of their own end. And obviously it worked for the Cowboys last week. I expect Manly to be even grittier in defence than the Cowboys and have that same level of attack, if not better. So it could be a big scoring game in this one, which we will get to the bets, but that is one of the legs that I've picked in there, a nice high-scoring affair. I don't really see the Dragons getting away with a win in this one. If they go back to how they played in round 1 and they play really gritty, they play really tough through the middle, maybe, I still actually rate their forward pack. I think it stacks up well against Manly. I'd even argue it's better in a few aspects. So if they want to play the way that they did in round 1 and they want to play really tough, really passionate through the middle, they can definitely get away with a win. But from what they've showed us so far this season, I don't see that happening. And even if it does, how are they going to defend against this Manly side when they've been so leaky in defence so far this season as well? We'll have to wait and see. But yeah, definitely tipping the Seagulls in this one. I just think there's too many attacking threats across the board. So we will jump into our matchups for this one. Now, there's a few knocking about in this one. Once again, I've been really impressed with the Dragons centres so far this season. I love the matchups that they've got against Cooler and Garrick, who have also started this season really, really well for the Seagulls. But they're all very, very different types of players, which I actually like as a matchup. Jack Bird and Moses Sully, very hard-working, very just take the hit-ups. And in the terms of Jack Bird, there's a few more flashy stuff, while Moses Sully's just such a hard man to handle, while Garrick and Cooler very much the opposite end of the spectrum, very fast. They're going to rely on their speed to burn you on the outside. So I think there's going to be a really entertaining battle between the centers in this one. How they're going to contain each other. They're very different styles of play, but they're equally as effective, if you will. So there's that as a good little matchup there. I also don't mind, of course, the captains in this one. The two Queensland halfbacks, Daly Cherry Evans and Ben Hunt, going up against each other. I'm really excited to see that one. That one is my matchup of the week. I just think, Ben Hunt, he had a really, really great game last week. He's been pretty good to start this season regardless, as he always is. You never look at a Dragons game or a Ben Hunt performance and you go, oh, he played pretty poorly. Because even when he's got 3-4 errors a game, you know that they're all coming from trying to conjure something out of nothing. And more often than not, that comes off. So really excited to see how these two go at it. Cherry Evans has been so good for such a long period of time. In fact, to the point where I think he's actually been quite quiet to start this season compared to how he was last year. In saying that, he's still been really good. But from what we know Cherry Evans can do, I'd argue he's been a little bit quiet. So I think he will step up in this one. I loved the kicking battle we had with Mitch Moses last week. It could be a similar affair with Ben Hunt. We know what these two halfbacks can do. They can really attack you in any facet of the game. So they're my matchup to watch in this one. If we move into the bet that I have for this game, as we've said, I expect Manly to win. I expect them to win well. So my first leg of this multi is the Manly Sea Eagles to win 13+. My second leg is a bit different, but something I haven't done so far this season, so it's a bit new to me. But I've gone Jackson Paulo and Tom Trbojevic to combine for 3+ tries. So that's under the Player A plus Player B markets. And basically, in better words, if Trbojevic scores 3 tries, that still gets up. If Paulo scores 3 tries, it still gets up. If Trbojevic gets 1, Paulo gets 2, it still gets up. They just need those two players need to combine for 3 or more tries. And that one is the second leg of this multi. And of course, as we alluded to earlier, the final leg for this one is I've got the match going over 45.5 total match points. I expect a high scoring affair. Even, Dragons, they fired shots at the Cowboys at a lot of stages last week. They can put a few points on the board. We know they've got that in them. Manly, they haven't been overly gritty in defence. They haven't been bad by any stretch of the imagination, but they can leak a few here and there. So I'm really confident in that leg getting up. I see this being a really high scoring affair. So once again, I'll rattle those off. We have Manly Sea Eagles 13+ in the big win, little win margin. We have Jackson Paulo and Tom Trbojevic to combine for 3+ tries. And we have the match going over 45.5 total match points. And that comes to a $9.50 multi. So if you're putting $1 on that and it wins, you get $9.50 back to the dollar. Once again, I'll say it every time. All of this is done through Sportsbet. I'm not affiliated with Sportsbet in any way. They are just the agency I choose to bet through. Some of these markets may not be available in other sports betting companies, and even if they are, the odds may be completely different. So if you're wanting to follow along exactly like I am, do it through the Sportsbet app. And once again, I'll say it every single time, but only bet where you can afford to lose. Gambling, it's a problem. And if you have a problem, don't follow this stuff. Skip his podcast and go off to your next ones. But gambling, it is a real problem across Australia and across the world. Don't bet where you can't afford to lose, guys. This is only just for a bit of fun, and it should stay that way. If gambling's not fun, please seek help. But that one wraps us up for this one. Yeah, just a closing wrap up. As I said, would really love the Dragons to win. I started with a little bit of hope for them this season after their trials in round 1. I was really liking what I saw. I love what Shane Flanagan was bringing to the side. I haven't seen too much of that so far since. So, yeah, I'd love nothing more for them to get up. In terms of if you want any just try scorer bets that I think could get up, once again, I'm going to do it every week until it bloody happens. But Jaden Sewer, really big on him this season. Obviously a tough one for him to cross in, but I wouldn't hate throwing a couple bucks on him. I assume he'd be at some good odds. I'll actually have a quick look at what Jaden Sewer is paying right now. Bear with me, guys. So anytime try scorer for the Dragons, Jaden Sewer is... Oh, bet suspended. Okay, well, scratch that. Apparently you can't bet on Jaden Sewer to score a try in this one anyway. So that was a whole lot of ramble for nothing. But if they do change that, I don't mind Jaden Sewer. I also don't mind Moses Sully for a try in this one. Hasn't scored so far this season to my knowledge. I expect him to cross in this one. Well, maybe not expect, but he's good odds to cross in this one. And if you want one for the Manly Seagulls, I mean, Tom Trbojevic is just under $2, and for an anytime try scorer, I'd load the house on that. I see that happening. I really like Luke Brooks. Every game he plays, he looks like he's about to cross. I also don't mind Ben Trbojevic or Homole Olakawatu to cross in this one, running off Tom Trbojevic and the halves. So there's a few options at Manly. As I said, high-scoring affair. They're probably going to score a few tries. Who knows where they're all coming from? But yeah, there's a few good value picks in that lot. Alas, we will move on to the second game of this Super Saturday. That, of course, being the Gold Coast Titans taking on the Dolphins. The Redcliffe Dolphins, the Dolphins, whatever you guys want to call them. I'll call them the Dolphins just because that's what the NRL wants, but they are Redcliffe. Anyway, so this one is taking place 7:35 p.m. at Cbus Super Stadium on the Gold Coast. Of course, that means it's a Gold Coast home game. Titans currently sitting in 16th. The only team below them is the Rabbitohs, only because the Rabbitohs haven't had a bye. Both the Rabbitohs and the Titans have not got a win so far in 2024, but the Titans had that bye, so they've got 2 points on the ladder regardless. The Dolphins, however, they're currently sitting in 7th. They're 1 win, 1 loss, and 1 bye as well. So not too much better, but based on what we've seen of the Dolphins and the Titans, I expect it could be a bit of a bloodbath once again. The Titans, I was high on them coming into this season. I've sold all stocks. I have no hope in them. They look awful. And now with the unfortunate news that Tino Fa'asuamaleaui will miss the season with an ACL injury, it's gut-wrenching, and I think it really could just all capitulate for the Titans in this one. However, there are some good news. I forgot to read over the ins and outs of the last game, but honestly, I can't be bothered going back. But for the Titans, Jaden Campbell makes his return from injury at fullback. Keanu Keeney drops out of the side. Tino Fa'asuamaleaui, as we know, is out. He's replaced at prop by Keenan Paliasia. And the other news at the moment, it doesn't say it right now, but David Fifita is expected to be included into this game, currently listed in jersey 18. Expect him to come into this side, probably at the expense of Joe Stimson would be my guess. But yeah, David Fifita, that is another massive boost for the Titans. It could maybe kickstart their season, who knows. I think Dolphins coming off that bye and just the confidence that they've got, they're definitely still my tip for this one. For the Dolphins, in terms of their ins and outs, we just have the one. Obviously, they had the bye last week, so technically it's a whole ins for the squad. But the in for them is Ray Stone makes his return from concussion. He's listed in jersey 17 off the bench, and it is Jared Wallace who makes way for him. Besides that, very similar side to the one that lined up in round 2. Maxi Plath still getting that run at jersey 13 at the lock position. Really like that for Max Plath. But yeah, as I said, in the tipping department, I've tipped the Dolphins. I've sold stocks on the Titans. I don't believe in them at all. Maybe they'll come good. Maybe they'll scratch a few wins together here and there. But I don't know when or where. And until then, I'm just going to keep tipping against them. I just don't think that they look awful. They really do. And the Dolphins, they looked really good in their last one. And any team coached by Wayne Bennett, they're going to look good regardless. So Dolphins, really confident in them to get the job done here. Where it's going to get one, honestly, I'm not too sure. From what I've seen from the Titans, they make so many errors. They don't offer anything in attack. The only forward that was making any inroads in their first couple of weeks was Fa'asuamaleaui, and he's gone now. So I don't know where they make meters from. I don't know where they get their attack from. Tanner Boyd had a really poor game. He couldn't kick for the life of him last week. There is not really a facet of the game that I can see them doing well in. Like, there is just nothing about it. And because of that, I see the Dolphins beating them in every position across the entire field. It genuinely could be a game where not a single Titans player plays better than their opposite number. So because of that, yeah, Dolphins, they're my tip. In terms of matchups, look, I am going to single out the fullbacks. The Hammer, we know how exciting he is. Had a fantastic game back in round 2, his last game for the club before the bye. Scored a hat-trick, but he comes up against Jaden Campbell. He's going to be looking to provide that spark. They've obviously handed him the keys to that fullback role, and they've moved AJ Brimson to the centres. So Campbell, he's going to look to make a difference in this one and try and get this Titans team back on track. I expect a big game from him. So I'm excited to see how these two perform. In terms of any other standout performances or standout matchups, there's not too much that really, stands out to me. I do think Fodawaker and Jermaine Jolliffe have big games to play in this one. I also think Keenan Palasia, if the Titans are to win, these three have to stand up in the forward pack. Keenan Palasia, I think he's been really disappointing so far at the Titans. I expect him to do a big bounce back in the replacement jersey for Tino in this one. But they're coming up against a big Dolphins forward pack, an aggressive Dolphins forward pack as well. So, we'll have to see how they all match up there. But yeah, definitely my pick of the bunch are the fullbacks, Jaden Campbell and Hamiso Tabuai-Fidow. Moving on to the bets, however. For this game, as you would all expect, I've got the Dolphins winning this one head-to-head. It wasn't bad odds in this one. There was actually a lot closer markets than I expected. I thought Dolphins would be clear favourites. I know they're only one win more than the Titans this year, but the Titans, as I said, haven't thrown a single thing at any team so far this season. So yeah, not bad value on just Dolphins head-to-head. I'd load up all over that. I've gone once again with that sort of player A and player B to combine for tries market. So in this one, I've gone Jack Bostock and Herbie Farnworth to combine for 2 or more tries. And I've got the game going under 46.5 total match points. Look, it could go over for sure. As I said, Titans really poor, haven't defended well. And the last Dolphins game we saw, they were clinical. They scored so many points. However, surely Des has to get the Titans up for a defensive effort. Des is renowned as a defensive coach. Maybe it happens in this one. Maybe the inclusions of Jaden Campbell and Fafita can do that. We'll have to see. But it's just the market that I've chosen to go for. 46.5 total match points is a lot of points. The Dolphins could absolutely demolish them by 46-0, and that will still pay out. So I don't mind that as my final leg. And of course, the odds for this one come to $10.25. I will read them out one more time. We have Dolphins head-to-head, Jack Bostock and Herbie Farnworth to combine for 2+ tries and under 46.5 total match points. And that is $10.25 for the odds for that one. So if you're putting $1 on that and you're winning all 3 legs, you get $10.25 back to the dollar. I'm not going to do the spiel once again here. I've said it already. Don't bet we can't afford, guys. And if you are choosing to follow these bets and they go down, don't come at me. If you're writing them, let's have some fun. Message me, swing me a message on Instagram. We'll chat about it. But beyond that, if they go down, it's not my fault. You're still choosing to jump on this. That is your decision. But that one wraps us up for our Super Saturday. Obviously, we'll be back with the Sunday and Monday games. Wrap that into one podcast in the coming days. So thank you guys for tuning into this one. Once again, I've said it a few times, but head over to the Instagram. Give me a follow there at Chip and Chase Podcast. Got a lot more content coming. And if you are following on to these bets, you can just interact with me there and we can chat about this stuff. But thank you guys for tuning into this one, and I'll see you guys next time.